morning, friends. Welcome to A Life Uncommon. This morning I'm working on a project that I want to introduce you to. I want to do a little leather working this morning. And I'm making scissors cases. I just thought I'd welcome you into the process. These scissors cases will be made to hold a large pair of scissors. And what I've done is I've prepped the leather by poking holes in it, stamping holes, and then I've stitched them halfway. That way I can do any beadwork that I want to do on the face of the items. But I wanted to introduce you, I've got a few of them going here where I've done one side. I've stitched one side. Now this is very rough, I still have to trim it. But I wanted to show you the process and how I get from two pieces of leather to this point here where one side is stitched. There's a tool, I believe they call it a leather stamp, but so I use a small leather hammer, a leather tooling hammer, and the stamps, a block that has thick rubber on one side, and I've laid them out approximately where I'm going to have them. I've stamped the top one. Now I'm going to be stamping the back one. And when you're stamping, you're creating holes for your needle to go through. So, for example, this stamp has 6 teeth to it. I line the teeth up, make the stamp, and then where the last tooth is, I bring it down, I catch that last hole with the first hole. And what this does is it gives me very even holes to stitch something up with. I'm stitching with cording. It's kind of an artificial sinew, and I match the sinew to the leather. But first I stamp. I'm using a needle that is designed for leather work. If you were to look at the tip of this needle, it is angled to a point that is designed to be able to pierce through the leather and make a larger, this is larger than the shaft. So this opens your hole up so that you can pull it through. And then I use a pair of pliers to pull the eye of the needle through. I need to stamp the other side of the leather so I get it approximately where I want it. I want to leave a little room for a fringe. Now, mind you, these all need to be trimmed up. They're not in their finished form. So I see I'm going to end about here, and I want to start about here. So I take my start point, and I just hammer. And then I place the first tooth in the last hole. Now this has got rubber, and the teeth of the stamp goes into this rubber and perforates holes. Now I'm holding the leather with my little finger. I'm pressing down to keep it stable. I'm holding this weight with these fingers and the weight pressing down on here. And then when I pick up, I keep the weight of my little finger down and I scoot up. I place it in the hole. These little clips are real good to use. You can find them in sewing departments. Okay, and then I do the bottom. I make the holes to stitch across the bottom. The set that I purchased of these punches this is a little thing honoring my infancy. Just a little dish that I've had. Now I've strung my needle. I make a large knot. Bring that down to where you let it out gradually, but you want it to be as short as possible, and that saves your length of your shoulders. I go in the first hole, only one side. I use the back of this to push against, like a thimble. And I follow the holes. Getting your rows started to where the holes align is kind of one of the bigger problems. And with some leathers, as you handle it, the grain of the leather will close and after you hold it with your thumb, and it'll be a little harder to see the holes. I'm using a very wide tooth with a plier with a good grip on the inside. They're not smooth. They've got tooth to them on the inside. And they have a spring-loaded center to where they open, makes it a little easier on your hands. Now I'm pushing against the table. I'm supported. And you just keep going up until you get the whole side, half side done. And then you knot it underneath so it doesn't show. And then I'll be back to show you the rest of the process. I'll stitch this up the rest of the way up. Then I got to come up with some little designs or something for this. But I'm going to be edging the edge of this. And then gradually, the last thing I do will be sewing up, or one of the last things, sewing up the other side after I've beaded here. And then I'll trim up the fringe however I want it. And I'm going to be making some kind of a reinforced edge here and here, and the beadwork will do that. The beadwork will give it that weight on that edge and that stiffness. I'll come back with you when I get to the next process.